And we're live. Welcome to another edition of Fiercely Local with Marine Bank. I'm Bill Penny, and I'm joined in the studio today by Larry Lee Jr. Larry, welcome. Good
Glad
to see
to
you.
be with you today, Bill.
Larry is a local insurance agent, a former state legislature, and so much more. Larry, I'm so glad you joined us. Tell us a little bit about who is Larry Lee.
Well, thank you again, Bill, and thanks for having me. And I have been truly blessed to grow up in Fort Pierce. I graduated from Fort Pierce Central High School in 1972, and I'm proud to say that we had the 1971 undefeated state football team. That's one of the things that I'm most proud of. Growing up in Fort Pierce, I attended college at Livingstone College, graduated from Livingstone in 1976. Went to the Denver Broncos as a free agent, got released during preseason. From there, I went back to my birthplace, Statesboro, Georgia, and I taught school in Georgia for 3 years. Moved back to Fort Pierce in 1979, married my college sweetheart, Alice Lee, and we're the proud parents of a daughter, Dr. Latasha Lee, soon to be a proud grandparents. So that's a little bit about where I am and where I came from. I have been truly blessed, Bill, to be in a community that has given me so much, gave me my start. I grew up as a kid not having a lot of great self-esteem. And football, I went out for football my senior year in high school, and it really helped change my life and shape me into the person I am today. But that's a little bit about where I got my start right here in Fort Pierce on the Treasure Coast. And I love St. Lucie County, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we're doing here in St. Lucie County.
Thank you, Larry. As an aside, I grew up in West Palm Beach, graduated 2 years after you did, and I know all the West Palm Beach football teams would always get beat up by the Fort Pierce team. Yes. So we feared you guys.
Well, I tell you, Bill, that team, the 70 and 71 football team did something that no school in the history of Florida football had done. And its first year of existence, it went to the state playoff and was runner-up, losing the state championship game. Came back the next year, went 13-0, and won it all. And off of that team, we had 74 players on those combined teams. 24 of them went to college on football scholarships. 8 of them went to the National Football League. 2 of them were #1 draft picks. Wow. So it's just Fort Pierce. We had a lot of talent back then. We were like Vero in the day. Mm-hmm. Like Vero right now, people look at their football program, but they don't have many schools to divide all those players. Mm-hmm. Our third team could have beat, back in 1972 or 71, could have beat a lot of first teams. Wow. And that's what happened in Vero. You have all that talent. I think y'all have, maybe 2 schools up there?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Vero Beach and Sebastian River Middle.
Right.
Sebastian High River, sorry about that.
So then you graduated, went to Statesboro, and came home. And tell us a little bit about your business career and your little stint in the state legislature.
Well, when I moved back here, I taught school at my alma mater, Fort Pierce Central, for 1 year as a physical science teacher. And then I went over to Indian River State College, and I was a counselor there, for a job placement counselor for a year. And then my wife and I, we had a trucking business for a few years. And then in 1988, I was blessed to open my very own State Farm Insurance Agency. And so I'm celebrating, I think it's 34 years of being a State Farm agent here in St. Lucie County. And then State Farm gave me so many opportunities to meet some wonderful people, and it gave me an opportunity to give back to my community that I love so dearly, Fort Pierce, particularly the neighborhood that I grew up in, the Lincoln Park community. And for years, I joined the Chamber of Commerce when I moved back here in 1980. And while I was at the Chamber, so many people would ask me, why don't you run for mayor? Why don't you run for city commissioner, county commissioner, school board, you name it? And I said, no, politics is not in the game for me. And so in 2012, I was approached. I got a call from Washington, D.C. And at the time, they were like recruiting people with resumes such as mine to try to run for state offices around the country. And I decided that I would give it a shot. And I ran for, had never held an elected position. Many thought I was crazy. And I ran for the Florida House District 84, which represents St. Lucie County. And I won, becoming the first black in the history of Brevard, Indian River, St. Louis, and Martin, Okeechobee County to serve in the Florida House of Representatives. That's a proud moment in my life. And I did well while I was there, but it wasn't for me. You have 8 years is the most that you could serve. And my third term, I ran unopposed, and I walked away from it unopposed because I didn't like the divisiveness that I saw. And George Washington, in my farewell address, I said George Washington warned us in his farewell address to the nation when he left the dangers of political parties. And what is happening is that's what we're seeing now. You're seeing this great divide, and you don't see anybody being centric or in the middle trying to pull everybody together. And we got to do better. That's one of the things that we really need to look at ourselves and make sure that we try to elect people that's willing to pull people together rather than put up these walls.
Yeah, Larry, so well said, so well said. And thank you for your service. So what's your passion? What are you working on now?
Well, tell you an interesting story, Bill. When I was in college, I was not prepared for college. I was on a vocational track at Fort Pierce Central. I was going to be a brick mason. I go out for football my senior year and did well, and these colleges started sending me scholarship offers, but I didn't have the prerequisites. I hadn't done what I needed to do in the classroom. Got to Livingstone, and I was about to flunk out, and thank God I went to that little small school, only 1,500 students, and the teachers there took me under their wings and groomed me, prepared me for where I am today. And I just thank God. But I was, one day I had done so bad on a test, I cried. I went to my room and I cried, and I said, I'm going to flunk. And I got on my knees and I prayed to God that if he would bless me to graduate from college, have a reasonable amount of financial success, that I would never forget where I came from. And God gave me more than I ever dreamed. So now my passion is to go back into my community. My freshman year in the legislature, I started a foundation called the Lighthouse Foundation, and it has an initiative called Restoring the Village. And you can visit and learn more about my foundation by going to restoringthevillage.com. And I have plans to build a 6-hole Boys and Girls Club golf course and clubhouse. It's a $6 million project. We raised about $2 million to date, but it's going to be right in the heart of the neighborhood that I grew up in. And then there are several other projects that my Restoring the Village initiatives are doing in Fort Pierce. But that's what I'm most proud about doing right now. Early in my life, I was about making money, but now it's about making a difference.
Wow, good for you. That's so heartwarming. What I'm sure everybody out there is saying, tell me more about Restoring the Village. How could they get involved? Or
well, they can visit our website to learn more about it, to see if it's something you want to do. Right now, Bill, there's about a 2-mile stretch in Fort Pierce along Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and I have a very ambitious vision to make that street one of the most scenic streets in Fort Pierce to drive through. Interesting story about the neighborhood I grew up. I grew up in a neighborhood called Lincoln Park Community. But in the late 70s, early 80s, people started calling it Northwest Fort Pierce because it was so much crime that they wanted to differentiate between them, that being Northwest Fort Pierce, and the rest of Fort Pierce. So it had a negative stigma attached to it, and so I changed that name when I was in the legislature to the Village of Lincoln Park, and got people there to start thinking like a village. And you drive there, if you're coming from south from Orange Avenue on the northeast side of the road, you'll see a sign that says, "Welcome to the Village of Lincoln Park, home of Zora Neale Hurston and the Florida Highwaymen." And that community has so much rich history, and that's what I want people to see. The Florida Highwaymen, when I was in the legislature, I got a bill passed. I introduced the bill, and then Representative Johnson, when she succeeded me, she also pushed for that bill, and we got it passed. But it's to build a Highwayman Museum in the heart of the Lincoln Park community. So, but Restoring the Village is all about that, restoring the village. It says, there's an old African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to get everybody to think. That's what that community was like when I was a kid. It was like a village. Everybody looked out for each other. And that's what I'm trying to bring back with the Restoring the Village initiatives. And when you go to our website, restoringthevillage.com, you can learn more about it. We have various community projects. One year we painted 26 houses in one day. And we have hundreds of people that come out and volunteer for our community programs. We have a banquet at the COVID caused us to postpone that for a while. We haven't done it in 2 years, but we have a banquet called the Village Keepers Awards. And what we do there is we recognize people in the community that's making a difference in the village of Lincoln Park. We also have another program called the Jeremiah Award. If you read the book of Jeremiah in the Bible, it talks about this guy going back to the Jerusalem to rebuild the wall. Well, that's what we're trying to do, rebuild that community. So anyone that comes on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, do any type of landscape improvement, building a new business, we give them the Jeremiah Award.
Wow. Wow, that's so amazing. What drives you? What drives you to do this? You get up every day excited. What drives Larry Lee Jr.?
Well, Bill, I'm just extremely blessed, man. I tell you, growing up, the child of a farm worker, my dad eventually built a citrus trucking and harvesting business, but it was tough for me. Now, my brothers and sisters didn't have it as bad as I did, but it was tough. I had to go
Were
to
you
the
the older or
orange.
younger?
I was the oldest,
Okay.
oldest of seven, and
Yeah.
I had to go to the tomato fields and the orange grove. But that hard work taught me great work ethics, and I just can't forget where I came from. And when I go to see my mom, she still lives over in the same neighborhood I grew up in, and I see the poverty that some of these kids are growing up in. They seem like it's hopeless. And one of my business partners, Sandy Woods, and I were riding one day, and he was, moving his business over here, and I showed him that area, and I saw this look on his face, and he said, "Larry, these people have no hope." And from that day forth, I decided that I wanted to bring hope to the youth of that community, give them options. Many times that we look at our kids and we don't realize that they act out, they are the way they are because they feel there's no other way. And we want to give them options.
Wow. Wow. What's the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome?
Well, getting people to see and believe what I see and believe, and that is that community, great things can happen to that community. And some people have seen so much negativity there for decades that they don't believe. They just don't believe. But I look at my life every day, man. I thank God for where He brought me from. Who would have thought that when I was in high school studying to be a brick mason, that I would end up going to college one day and graduate, or even end up make it to the National Football League, or better yet, to own a business or make it to the Florida House of Representatives. I look at where God has brought me from, and my life is a testament of believing, and that's what I'm trying to get young people to do. Set goals for yourself, believe, and don't let anyone tell you can't do something. I got a saying, Bill, and it's always strive to get on top in life because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. And if you're not on the way, you're in the way. I tell young people that make sure that if you start telling people that you have these dreams and they start being dream killers, want to throw water on your dream, get away from them, stay away from them. You don't need negative people in your life, and that's what I've done in my life. I don't get angry at people. I just disassociate.
Now say
myself.
that again. You talk really fast. I couldn't listen that fast. So
Okay.
that saying was beautiful. Say it again.
Well, it says always strive to get on top in life because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. And if you're not on the way, you're in the way. So I tell young people, if your friends are not on the way, they're in your way.
Wow.
So disassociate yourself. Be nice to them. Let them continue to be your friends, but be friends with them from an arm's length.
Yeah.
Not too close to you, because association brings about an assimilation. And what that is if you associate with someone long enough, one or two things going to happen. Either you're going to develop the habits of that person, or that person is going to develop your habits. So why risk your good habits on someone that has bad habits?
Wow. So well said. So well said. Do you have any advice for somebody that wants to start a business or get involved in the community to make a difference like you have?
Well, I tell you, Bill, I had some great mentors in college and even post-college when I was in Georgia, teachers and educators that were ahead of me. And then even when I got back here, the late Hayward Finn, who was a county commissioner, and Bud Adams, Mr. Adams, he was just one of my, God, I miss him so much. He's a big cattle operator and rancher, but he gave me so much good advice, and He supported all of my political campaigns. He wanted me to run for governor.
Oh, okay.
But
Governor Lee.
Yeah, he was just a great friend. But I had so many people like that. And my father was, oh man, my father, he had a third grade education, Bill, but you never knew it. And he was just a brilliant guy. And so I had some good people in my life that helped mentor me and put me on a great path to where I am today. And that's what you got to do, especially to young people. Try to surround yourself with people who are very positive, and go and speak to people. There are a lot of business people that'll sit down and talk with you. I had two young men in my office yesterday. I always take time to talk to people because so many people took time to talk to me.
Well, that's great advice, Larry. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to?
Well, I want to thank you and the viewers out there. Just please go to Restoring the Village, because I look at what I'm trying to do as a piece of thread. And a piece of thread, Bill, you could put in your hand and you could pop it real easy. But if you get dozens of pieces of thread, you develop a rope. And when you develop a rope, you can lift heavy objects. That's how I look at what I'm trying to do with Restoring the Village. I got a big lift, but I can't do it alone. And I got a song I want you to listen to. It's called Wake Up Everybody. It's my favorite song. That song came out my junior year in college, and it says, wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, it's time for thinking ahead. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well, because they are the ones who catch all the hell. Wake up the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then our young people will listen to what you have to say. But it's just a beautiful song. The words are as powerful today as they were back in 1974.
Wow. Wow, that's exciting. Larry, thank you so much. On behalf of our community, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for joining us. And that will wrap up this edition of Fiercely Local with Marine Bank. Until next time.